30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in on a beautiful Friday afternoon in Nashville, Tennessee. We got a new backdrop here. Let's take a look at this thing. This is the Honky Tonk Showdown, which means that a big adult league is playing in here being the beautiful Fordyce Center in Bellevue. And there's some very good hockey that will end up being played here. If you want to come out and watch some of it, what the heck, come on, because pretty good stuff happening to my left and over there to my right. So that's a little bit of what's going on. Now, let's find out where Billy Derrick is. I know it's Chattanooga, but what is this thing he's broadcasting from? What the hell is this thing?
This is an Airbnb, George. I don't know if you've ever heard of one of those, but
I have.
Yeah, we're staying in one of those this weekend in the Saudi Daisy area. So it's crazy driving down. You know, your ears start popping because of all of the all the mountains down here and all the trees. Yeah. So it's always something I forget about driving through Chattanooga, but it's good to be down here.
Right around Monteagle Mountain.
Oh yeah. George, I got to ask you, that backdrop looks phenomenal. I mean, did you request that?
No, in fact, I didn't know they were going to bring it in here. Hold on, I'll get out of the way again. Keep talking.
That looks great. I mean, it looks like you're downtown at a bar somewhere. And it looks like it's pretty official. Got the yellow and blue in there, the Preds logo. That's awesome.
So that's what a backdrop looks like. Now let's get the show underway.
That's a high-level backdrop right there.
David, how you doing?
I'm good, George. How are y'all doing?
Doing good.
I need to get on Billy's vacation schedule. It seems like he's just taking numerous days this month. Mm-hmm. Did he file his reports this time, or was
TPS reports?
Did he file them?
Y'all haven't watched Office Space, have you?
We have not, I guess.
It's so bad. Neither one of you know how funny that is.
Billy, how many days this month have you actually worked?
I don't know. I mean, I'm on here. I feel like that's working somewhat. I felt like I owed you guys something.
Okay, watch this, Billy. When you've worked here 6 months, then you'll have the right to question.
That's fair enough. That's fair. You've left me out to dry, Billy, though. Everything happens wrong when you're not here.
I know.
Like what? I show up?
No, that backdrop was not there when you got here. It was just
our original backdrop, of course, was gone, and for whatever reason,
I was going to lean back in the chair, and we were really going to have some fun.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm surprised that hasn't happened yet, but luckily we replaced that backdrop with a nice one. But
so far, so good. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
You can tell Billy has missed you when you get to the first topic of the update. He's trying to cater towards you, George. So I think you know where we're headed.
I'm trying to cater to both of y'all. What a night last night in Atlanta. They walk off the Mets 13-10 in 10 innings. Ozzie Albies walk-off 3-run shot. Between that game, the comeback, the broadcast booth, that was a great night of Braves baseball where you sit back and kind of thank the heavens that you're a Braves fan. I mean, Frenchie was cracking me up all night. John Smoltz, Chipper, Tim Glavine, and they sweep the Mets. I mean, I don't know that it gets any better than that.
So this is the text I sent Jeff this morning. He has not yet responded, but I know he will. What an amazing night of Atlanta Braves baseball on the field and in the booth. You did a great job of mixing talk about the game with hilarious other stuff. I'm watching the replay right now because I was going back and forth last night to an incredible hockey game, which, by the way, I won. Mixing four people into the conversation can be really tough. You pulled it off beautifully. So, I'll just say this. Here's one thing that I think's coming.
What's coming, George?
Nice television. I think this is, it's a monkey see, monkey do world. And I look for other teams to copy what their telecast pulled off last night. If I was going to pick out one crew that I think will do equally as good as the Braves crew did last night, it would be the Mets. Ron Darling and Keith Hernandez with Gary Cohen as their play-by-play guy, I think is the best three-man booth going in baseball. Yeah. And here's where I think they struck gold last night. Number one, whomever they assigned to get all the film footage, I thought they did a wonderful job of mixing great moments with silly.
Yeah.
Smoltz falling down as he's getting to first base, and you see that little strand of hair, and Jeff goes, "Your head looks like a field goal."
You could tell.
Goalposts.
Yeah, you could just tell how close they all are, and it's rare to find that chemistry. I don't think they all played together at the same exact time, but at some point they all were on the same team together. It's rare to find that. And Francoeur, I liked his call, but I thought Smoltz's call at the end, he said, what did he say? Warm up the bus or start the buses?
Something like that.
But they sounded good.
It was good to see him in a non-neutral role. Normally when he's with Fox, he has to play the middle. It was good to see him kind of favor towards the Braves a little bit. But let's go to the on-the-field action, George.
Well,
I know you're excited about that.
I'm going to tell y'all a story behind one of the stories. So they showed Jeff pitching in a 17-2 game in Baltimore. And in the second inning of him pitching, because he had always wanted to pitch, he had this great arm.
Yeah.
And so finally in a 17-2 game, they let him. Well, the first inning, as he told last night, he retired him 3 up, 3 down. In the second inning, he had a hit by pitch to former Lipscomb star Caleb Joseph. So I sent him a very colorful text message that essentially said, "Who the hell do you think you are hitting somebody from Nashville? You go apologize to him." So the story was that Jeff went up to Caleb Joseph, who I guess at the time was with Baltimore, and he said, "Caleb, do you know a guy named George Plaster?" And Caleb says, "Oh yeah." He says, "I've been to Predator games with him." And Jeff goes, "Well, he told me I have to apologize." So I'm looking forward. I'm going to try to have Jeff on sometime in the next couple of weeks to find out, okay, whose idea was this? It was brilliant television.
I had no idea.
Was legwork of all that film footage?
Did fans know this was going to happen ahead of time? Because I didn't. I checked it out and I was like, "Holy crap, this is happening!"
But that's the difference. Okay, you're not a fan.
It makes it special.
I'm a fan, but I'm not dialed in like y'all are.
It makes it special because the Mets hate Chipper Jones so much. So they love putting Chipper in the booth to stick it to the Mets. They even had him being called Larry last night. Nobody calls him Larry except the Mets. He's always Chipper to us. But the game last night was phenomenal. The whole series, the Braves trailed by 3 runs for all 3 games in the series, coming back to win. And I was telling my mom last night, even though they were down by 4 runs, 5 runs, you felt like they were going to come back and win the game. It's just the momentum in the feel of the game was always leaning towards the Braves.
I've got some really weird thoughts when these teams play because Buck Showalter was on the first minor league baseball team that I ever broadcast in college. And, when we see each other, the first thing that always comes out of Buck's mouth, he graduated from Mississippi State. And the first thing he always asks me is, "What do you think of state football? How are they going to do?" If we were to run into each other this summer, I'll guarantee you that's the first thing that comes out of Buck is, tell me about State. What do you think? Great guy. Happy for him that the Mets thing has worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Might not necessarily be rooting for him against Atlanta, but virtually any other time, I'm rooting for Buck Showalter. Great guy. Love it.
He makes it hard to hate that group, especially with your relationship with him, George. And I know we talked a lot about what Buck Showalter did for that team last year with Watson, early in that season. So he's a big reason for that. So Braves sweep the Mets. 3-game series against the Nats in Atlanta begins tonight. So obviously we'll be keeping track of that this weekend. Stanley Cup Finals. Last night, what a game. Panthers beat the Golden Knights 3-2 in overtime. George gets the win as well. Season basically on the line. The Panthers keep finding ways to find ways to win. I mean, the first win in the Stanley Cup Finals in franchise history. Carter Verhaeghe, game-winning goal. Game 4 tomorrow night, George. Congrats on that win. That was that's a big get.
I'll give you a little hint. I'm going back with Florida again. In the game that is ultimately going to tell us where this series is going. If Vegas wins tomorrow night, it'll end in 5. If Florida wins tomorrow night and ties the series at 2-2, this one's going 7.
Florida's a slight favorite tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of that's
this. Man, they hung by a thread.
They sure did.
And I'm flipping back and forth between that game and trying to hear what crazy stuff was coming out of that booth. I'll tell you,
that was probably tough. Flipping back.
I'll tell you another thing they did really well last night. The camera in the booth that showed all.
Oh my gosh, that was great.
That was great stuff.
It was,
really
and they put
good.
out. You ought to see this, George, and David might be able to show it to you. But they put out a tweet of all the home run calls and all their reactions. Jeff called one of them. Smoltz called one. I think Chipper even called one, and they're all a little bit different. But that was phenomenal stuff. But
listen,
NBA,
God blessed that telecast. With an incredible game that had so many twists and turns. I mean, it was Tennessee versus Clemson all over again.
Yeah, it was a long game, too. What time did it end last night? About
10 o'clock?
So,
close to that.
So Braves and Nats, of course, this weekend. Stanley Cup Finals rolling on as well. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Panthers and Golden Knights. NBA Finals. Tonight, Game 4, Nuggets and Heat. Denver favored by 3.5. I wanted to throw this in there. The Heat have lost 3 in a row at home, so all of a sudden they're starting to struggle a little bit at home. The team trailing the series 2-1 are 13-49 in NBA Finals history, so the odds are not in the Heat's favor right now, although Golden State did come back from a 2-1 series deficit last year to beat Boston, but I don't know that if that Golden State team is as can be compared to this Heat team. But then again, we've doubted this Heat team all playoffs, George, and they have proven us wrong many times.
If I'm the Heat, I need to get off to a good start tonight because the mojo right now is all in Denver's favor. Miami's got to do something early to keep that crowd going. Mm-hmm. If they're down 10 at the end of the first quarter, I think they are a dead pigeon.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because with the Nuggets, George, when you talked about it, if Jamal Murray plays as well as he did in Game 3, you can almost kiss the Heat's chances goodbye. I mean, they have to find a way to contain him somewhat. But then again, if you double him, you've got Jokic and Gordon wide. I mean, they're an impossible team to defend. So, of course, we'll see what happens tonight. Oklahoma softball. They have won their 3rd straight national title, and their historic run culminated with a 3-1 win over Florida State. They carried a winning streak of 53 consecutive games, an NCAA record. They became the first team to win back-to-back-to-back titles since UCLA all the way back in 1990. They had a .984 winning percentage. That's the best in D1 history. I mean, George, what is going on in Oklahoma with that softball program? It's unbelievable.
Well, first of all, for all the people that don't like that Oklahoma just keeps winning and winning, it's good for that sport.
Yeah.
And you say, why? because I've always believed that you get higher ratings when you've got a Goliath going against the little guy. And right now, Oklahoma's the Goliath. They're the one that's going to get all the TV exposure. Even though people are tired of them, they need to celebrate the fact that Oklahoma is creating viewership and interest that flat out wouldn't be there.
Yeah, and how about in the state of Oklahoma with young girls that, they follow that Oklahoma program, and then they get to stay in that state, head over to the College World Series in Oklahoma City. I mean, just for that state, it's probably done wonders for a lot of the young, young ladies trying to might want to play softball. So that's what
you're
right.
You can't think about as well.
You can't forget that Oklahoma State also made it to the College World Series too. So it was great for the whole state in general, with both teams being there.
Yeah, it's probably helped that Oklahoma State program too. So, and credit to you, David. I totally forgot to put this in the update, but David threw that in there. So good job, David.
Is our update finished?
Well, college baseball, George. There's one final today to report. Duke has pulled off the upset, air quotes, over Virginia. That game started at 11 o'clock. Duke wins 5-4, and so they'll go back at it tomorrow. See if Duke can win that series and advance to Omaha. So kind of a shocker there earlier today. Indiana State at TCU getting ready here in about 45 minutes or so. That is in Fort Worth. And then South Carolina and Florida at 5 o'clock. Oral Roberts at Oregon tonight at 7 o'clock. And, of course, as you know, George, Tennessee and Southern Miss get underway tomorrow. Alabama and Wake Forest as well. Kentucky and LSU, and then Texas and Stanford. George, you want to guess the get-in price for Hattiesburg this weekend?
$250.
$247.
Is it not amazing? I mean, it was triple digits in Nashville in some of the StubHub kind of accounts.
Yeah.
This is based on the growth that ESPN has fostered. I mean, you can call it whatever you want, but when I was getting out of school, which may feel like the dark ages, nobody cared. And all of a sudden, ESPN started showing this stuff because they really didn't have any other programming at this time of year. They need all they can get. Mm-hmm. There's only so many Australian rules football games you can show. And all of a sudden, people have started to buy in, and there's a meaning to getting to this Super Regional and then to the College World Series. Well, it coincides with it all of a sudden getting TV coverage.
Yeah, George, we'd be better off in Charlottesville. $34. So we might have to head over there.
Maybe not tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe not tomorrow. It'll be hot everywhere this weekend. So that's what you got this weekend for Supers.
After the break, Terry McCormick from Main Street Media is going to join us. We're going to talk Titans, and we're going to get into some issues that have popped up here in the last few minutes. And I will also explain to Terry exactly what the Yankees should do to duplicate what the Atlanta Braves did last night. I think Terry will find this either amusing or go, oh, no. Stay tuned. You need to hear this.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Scholar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Lanes. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
If you're looking for a football camp for your son or daughter that stresses the fundamentals and doing things right, let me suggest the Hometown Football Camp. Here's former MTSU quarterback Wes Counts.
The Hometown Football Camp is a youth football camp at Battleground Academy, June 19th through 21st. This is a working skills camp for young football players to learn proper technique and skills to prepare them for the upcoming season. Our coaches have won championships at both high school and college levels and are eager to pass along their knowledge. So if the young football player in your life wants to be successful this fall, send them to the Hometown Football Camp. Register at hometownfootballcamp.com. That's hometownfootballcamp.com.
Okay, in a moment, we will talk with Terry McCormick from Main Street Media about Titan football. However, we're going to get Terry into the Yankees for just a second. As a lot of you know, the 2021 world champion Atlanta Braves last night did a telecast that really was very cool. They kind of had Jeff Francoeur as sort of the, I guess you'd call it the host. And then they had Chipper, they had John Smoltz, and they had Tom Glavine in there. So, Terry, here's what I envision. I think a lot of the teams are going to look at this and say, this was really popular. And I think the Yankees could come up with something really cool here. David Cone is one of their guys. Okay, he could head it up. And then you could have all the cheaters, Andy Pettit, A-Fraud, and Roger Clemens, and they can all confess exactly how they cheated.
No. That won't work, George.
Is that what you expect?
I expected a cheap shot from you, yes.
Yeah. Anyway, just think about it. It'd be a hell of a show.
Well, they already have they have Cone and they have Paul O'Neill, who are part of the broadcast. And then I think Jeff Nelson does some games for them too. But there are plenty of options.
Michael Kay deserves the day off. I just, I thought that'd be a nice touch. Cheaters night.
Yes. Your team's had a few of those as well.
Like who?
Oh, I'm sure there's been some.
You can't
just
name
because,
one.
wasn't Sheffield a suspected steroid user? I know he played for the Yankees as well. But there have been others. There have been some.
They all have Yankee ties at some point. Okay, let's get to the Titans now that I think you're about to come with a name that might embarrass me. So tell me the genesis of this whole DeAndre Hopkins talk. Where did this start? I mean, I get why they want him, but where did it start?
Well, I think it probably just came from the fact that Tim Kelly was his offensive coordinator during his final year in Houston. And also, obviously, he knows Mike Vrabel from Vrabel's time with the Texans as well. So having that prior relationship probably helped to open the door for him to come in and visit and kind of see what the Titans are all about. I think obviously they have a need at wide receiver, and certainly with Hopkins being the best name available, it makes sense that they would make a run at this.
Okay, it got out earlier today that the second visit is going to be with the New England Patriots. And what the Titans and the Patriots have in common is they've got real needs at wide receiver. Is this Hopkins almost telling us that the market for the obvious KC, Buffalo, Dallas, whatever, has not really materialized monetarily?
It sure sounds that way and sure seems like it. I mean, I don't have, an inside connection to Hopkins to say that, but certainly looking at it on, from the outside, it would appear that the market has not materialized the way that he and his representation probably had hoped it would. So he's kind of going back to some familiar people to kind of jumpstart this process. Obviously, with Tim Kelly and Mike Vrabel here in Tennessee, and then obviously the connection with Bill O'Brien now being the offensive coordinator with the Patriots. So to me, it's DeAndre Hopkins getting things started by going with some people who know him well.
Okay, in my growing up years, C.M. Newton taught me a lesson that anytime you've got a tough decision, get one of these long legal pads, draw a line down the middle, pros and cons. Okay, the pros of the Titans are, surely to God, he's going to get a lot of balls thrown to him because he's the best they would have by a mile. Perhaps the other pro would be that, they appear, according to you, to have the kind of money to make a pretty legit offer. The cons, it seems to me, are the fact that the Titans haven't exactly been the most sophisticated passing off offense out there. He knows that going in. And the second piece of this is who's kidding who? The addition of DeAndre Hopkins is not going to elevate them to a chance at a ring. Now, it might get them a division title. If this division ends up sucking, then maybe they have that shot. But that's as far as this is going. So, Terry, why is he doing this?
I think he wants to play, and you can't go play for the Kansas City Chiefs if they're not putting forth any offer for you. So you kind of got to take what you can get. And obviously, with DeAndre Hopkins, if he's forced to choose between the Titans and the Patriots, neither of those look like Super Bowl bound options right now. I think obviously the Patriots have a much richer tradition than the Titans, with all the Super Bowls won there by Bill Belichick, and then of course that was with Tom Brady. But in recent times, the Patriots have not exactly gotten it done either. And they're in a much tougher situation now, division wise, with the Bills being the leader of the pack there, and the Dolphins obviously surrounding Tua Tagovailoa with talent, and now Aaron Rodgers arriving with the Jets. So he could very well end up on a last place team in New England if he decides to play in the AFC East. With the Titans, like you said, they're probably not reserving hotel reservations for Super Bowl Sunday either, but there certainly would appear to be at least a path to the playoffs here.
Okay, let me try a couple more on this subject and see what you think. In the pro football world, the one player that seems to have juice is the quarterback. We've seen quarterbacks, be able to push their agendas at times. Is it possible, you know him a lot better than I do, that Ryan Tannehill has at some point walked in and said, what am I supposed to do with this cast you've put together? This talk show guy says we're running the wishbone. Would Tannehill have that in him to do that?
I think he probably carries some weight in that regard. And then the other part of the equation is this, he's kind of opened up and hasn't been afraid to kind of just address the elephant in the room regarding, his situation, with the drafting of Will Levis on the heels of drafting Malik Willis. I think Tannehill knows he's probably, barring just going crazy this year, probably not going to be here past 2023. And I think that, when you're in a situation like that, maybe you are a little more bold and a little more brave and say, hey, I need some help here. Go find it.
Okay, let me try this one. Should the Titans' strategy be, we don't care who he's got a visit scheduled with, we are not letting him walk out the door without a deal?
I think it should be. I think that's how they should approach this, since they have the first crack at DeAndre Hopkins. But there's no guarantee that it's going to come off like that, because they're going to have to do a serious sell job, not only on the team's fortunes in terms of, hey, we're not as bad as people are making us out to be. I think they have to try and sell the culture. I think they have to try and sell the fact that this team, with Mike Vrabel, is going to be a competitive one. I'm not ready to pencil in and say they're going to go 12-5 out of the gate here, but I do think that having Mike Vrabel and the type of coach that he is will keep this team in most games. Now, that said, the way they go about that a lot of times has been, holding teams down and trying to win a 16-13 game. Not sure how much that is a selling point for Hopkins in terms of him wanting to be able to produce. But you also have to remember that this is a guy that the last couple of years hasn't put in a full season of work. So you're rolling the dice a little bit there. So there's a little bit of need on both sides, George.
Billy, you're listening to this. Anything on the DeAndre Hopkins part of this you want to add or ask? Feel free.
Well, yeah, Terry, one more thing on Hopkins. I mean, I've heard a lot of comparisons to Julio Jones, Randy Moss, the old Titans receivers that they've brought in, and they just, they haven't panned out, not to the surprise of many people, but I mean, they're older in their career and they were kind of on the last leg. Do you compare Hopkins to those other guys the Titans have experimented with, or does Hopkins still have, 2-3 more good years left?
That's the big question. I think, obviously when they got Randy Moss and Julio Jones, they were both already in their early 30s. Hopkins just turned 31 earlier this week. So he's not quite as old as the two guys that you mentioned, or maybe Andre Johnson, who was also here. But DeAndre Hopkins does have some tread off the tires. And, thanks to the PED suspension last year, and I think it was a hamstring injury in 2021, he's not played more than 10 games in a season since the 2020 season. So there is a bit of a roll of the dice there. But if you're the Titans, if you can structure it in a way that there's not as bad of a cap hit as there was with getting rid of Julio Jones, and you can, say that let's give this guy a chance because he was more productive than any receiver they had. If they can do those things, I think it's worth the gamble, because other than Treylon Burks emerging this year and coming out of nowhere to really improve his game, there really doesn't appear to be a go-to option in this wide receiver core right now.
You mentioned the receiver core, and I was talking about this the other day with somebody about how this receiving core may not be as bad as some people think it might be. We didn't see any of Kyle Phillips last year, really. Chigo Okonkwo is still returning. Do you think this receiving core is as bad as a lot of people are talking about and talking it up to be? Because you start to look a little bit deeper. Yeah, they're probably missing one or two more depth pieces. But, I look at this offense and say, hey, the Titans can get a little creative with it.
Yeah, and I think that's some of what Tim Kelly is going to do in terms of running more tempo, getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quickly, and getting guys on the move and things like that. But I think the biggest thing to me, Billy, about this Titans receiving core, it's not that they're necessarily bad, because we really don't know if they're good or bad. It's that they're just unproven. They don't know what they have. They don't know what they have in Treylon Burks. They don't know what they have in Kyle Phillips. They don't know what they have really in Racey McMath, because he was injured a good part of last year. They do know what they have in Nick Westbrook-Akina, and he's an average receiver at best, about a third or fourth guy on most teams. And I think it's just a matter of, if you bring in Hopkins, that's a proven commodity. There's a level of expectation there that there's not with these other guys, because they're either so young or haven't been healthy enough, and that they don't have a real track record yet.
Terry, I got one more, and going kind of at Ryan Tannehill, and obviously, he's been there, he's been working. Does he look different to you? Does he look a little bit more interested, or I mean, and even talking to him, what's kind of the status update of Ryan Tannehill heading into, of course, an obviously big year where we might also see Will Levis play?
Honestly, I think Ryan Tannehill, I think he's healthy. I think he feels good. And I think he wants to prove something. I mean, the last couple of years, he hasn't been as good as he was the first couple of years when he got here. And I think he's eager to, one, stay healthy, and two, lead this team and put up good numbers because he knows that he's in a short-term window, probably not beyond this year. And he also probably knows that if this team gets off to a 2-5 start, not only are the fans going to be clamoring for Will Levis, the coaching staff's probably going to be wanting to say, well, let's take a look at what we've got here. So he doesn't want to end it that way. I think you're going to see a very motivated Ryan Tannehill at the outset of this year, eager to show people that, one, he can still play at a high level, and two, that he's still the leader of this football team.
Seems to me there's a freedom in him right now of saying, what the hell, I'm not going to be here next year, so if I need to say some things, I will. If I need to take a few more chances, I might. Barry, I think you're absolutely right about that part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the thing that, could be setting up Ryan Tannehill to have a really good year because, the shackles won't be on him of being confined to this run-first offense. Maybe he can, do a few more of the things that he wants to do within this system. And I think that the change that they're making in the system to maybe get the ball out a little quicker and not have him take so many hits, that can only be good for the longevity of his career. It's just a matter of him developing the rapport with some of these young guys, or if he gets DeAndre Hopkins, developing the rapport with him quickly enough that they can be productive together.
Okay, we'll go to the break. We've gotten through all the DeAndre Hopkins stuff for now. He will visit the city early next week. Sunday is what it sounds like. Who knows where it goes, but we needed to talk about it. When we come back, more about the team with Terry McCormick from Main Street Media. As you see at the bottom of the screen, it's time to talk to you about the folks at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. You see the date down at the bottom, August the 4th through the 6th. I've tried really hard to be honest and to admit I've never been to a Grand Prix. I don't know what to expect, but I know this, I'm going the weekend of August the 4th through the 6th because I have really been intrigued by so many of you who have been in that same situation. Never been to one of these, never knew what to expect, and you've walked away in the first 2 years saying, this is one of the coolest things you've ever experienced. The music will be there. The racing will be there. I'll be there. That was a weak third. Anyway, the point is tickets are now on sale. You can go to their website, musiccitygp.com. The tickets start anywhere from general admission all the way up to areas with a lot of amenities. It's up to you to choose. See you in early August. It will be exciting.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank and Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at bairdifference.com.
We are back. We're talking some Titans football during this first hour. Terry McCormick from Main Street Media joining us for this visit. Terry, I think we all went into the draft saying, man, the Titans really need to have a heck of a draft. They've got all these different needs. And the truth of it is, most people's reaction to their draft was sort of It seems to me for it to get better than that the kid from Tulane has got to come up big and come up big early. Tell me how they intend to use him.
George, I think they're going to use him in a number of different roles. I mean, obviously they don't want trade secrets out, but you can see that this kid has some special talent in terms of how he can move and accelerate with the football in his hands. I think he's going to be a valuable weapon not only in the run game to spell Derrick Henry, but I think they're going to use him quite a bit in the pass game. One of the things that he does every day after practice during the camp, he would take 100 balls off the jugs gun. So that tells you right there that he's working to improve and get himself ready to be a pass receiving target out of the backfield. I think he's got the ability maybe to add a little bit of spice to this offense that they haven't had in a while, and maybe do so not necessarily from a wide receiver position like we came to expect with A.J. Brown, but from the running back position and from being kind of moved around a lot.
They've caught a lot of criticism in the past. Watson really has gotten all over them about their unwillingness to use Derrick Henry on third down. So with this young guy, is it going to be first and second down, Derrick Henry, and if it's 3rd and 7, he's out of there?
So that probably would be that way most of the time, although there could be some situations where both of them would be on the field in some third down packages. I think that, Spears has the ability to, go out in motion or run out of the slot, run out as a receiver, run out as a back, or if they want to go empty, they do that and put both of them out there. But I think that you probably would see some packages out there that would say there's room for both of them to have a role on third down. But like you said, when it's 3rd and 7, then they're probably going to have to, not have Derrick Henry on the field most of the time, because teams that a run play on that type of situation is not likely to happen.
Terry, in the style they play, it's back to, what it's always been. 10 yards at a time, field goals matter. But am I right? Randy Bullock's out of here. So what is the field goal option?
Well, right now it's two young guys battling it out here in camp. There's Caleb Shudak, who came here last year. I believe he's from Iowa or Iowa State. Maybe I think it's Iowa. And he kicked in one game last year. Most of last year he was injured, but then he kicked in one game when Bullock was out and they needed somebody to fill in. He's got a very strong leg. He's not a very big guy. He's about 5'7", probably weighs about 175 pounds, but he has a very strong leg, and he's competing with Trey Wolf, who is an undrafted rookie out of Texas Tech. Now, that said, here's the thing, in my opinion, on the kicker situation, George. If this is a team, like you said, that is going to be involved in a lot of close, low-scoring games, which I think we all, believe that maybe it won't be quite as low-scoring as last year, but I doubt this team is ready to turn into the Kansas City Chiefs overnight. So if you're going to be in a lot of games that are 17-16, it makes sense to have a very reliable field goal kicker. And Craig Ackerman, the special teams coach the other day, said they want guys who can make a field goal, and be very, very reliable from 50 yards in. But in my way of thinking, anytime you can put points on the board, if you've got a guy who can hit from 58, get him out there and let him try it, because points were at a premium for this team last year. And Randy Bullock's lack of range from beyond about 48, 49 yards cost this team a lot of points, and even the opportunity to try field goals. So these young guys, if one of them can distinguish himself and show that he's got some long range ability, I think that puts him at an advantage. The other thing too is, if they're banking on these young guys, and to me, that's a real roll of the dice. Yes, you'd like to be cheap at the punter position and at the field goal kicker position so that you can allocate more resources and at other spots on the roster. But don't you think, George, that if a Robbie Gold or a Ryan Suckup or somebody like that is still unsigned at the outset of training camp, that they would be much, much more reliable in clutch situations than these unproven rookies?
Terry, I'm completely with you. This is Logan Woodside all over again. That I would ask that question incessantly. Are you comfortable with Logan Woodside? And the truth of it is, people's answer had to be, hell, I don't know. I've never seen him play. I've never seen him do anything that ever mattered. It was always in August with handing off to David Fluellen. You like that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Good pull there. And the thing of that is, George,
the kicker is not on this roster.
No, may not be. And the thing is, you referenced the backup quarterback situation. They gambled with that last year and lost big time because they knew in drafting Malik Willis that he was not ready, to go. So but then Willis beat out Woodside for the second string job. And then they wound up losing Woodside as the Atlanta Falcons picked him up once they needed a replacement in the middle of the year. So then, they had the good fortune of Tannehill being healthy and starting, I think it was 49 straight games. But then when he got injured, they were unprepared for that situation, and it really bit them big time.
Billy, you're hearing all this. Got anything more you want to lay on Terry?
Yeah, I want to get into Kevin Byard a little bit, and I know we've kind of tracked his situation here the past couple months actually. But he came and he said it was important to come and be a leader and represent himself well, as opposed to not showing up and maybe making the media ask him even more questions. He kind of, it feels like he kind of put a stop to it and said, I'm here, I'm going to show up, I'm going to do what I have to do to be a professional. Were you surprised to see that, Terry, from a guy like Byard?
No, I wasn't surprised. I mean, I knew that he would show up when the time came and he would be there to answer the bell. But, he said yesterday that it had been his intention all along to work out on his own this offseason and stay involved in the program that he had been working on with his personal trainer and all. And that's all well, good, and fine. But I do think, whether on purpose or inadvertently, I do think that it kind of sent a message to the Titans that Byard was not necessarily happy with the way they handled this whole pay cut request. And I can't blame him, because if you look at this entire roster, all 90 guys that are on it, is there a less likely person that you would want to tick off than Kevin Byard in terms of his relationship with the organization? This is a guy who played locally at MTSU. Not only that, he's a heck of a player, an all-pro safety. And he's probably your top guy in terms of community and goodwill that this franchise puts forward and puts out there in this community. Maybe he plays a position at safety that's not worth a $19 million cap hit, but he's the one guy I think that you should never have crossed and asked to do that sort of thing, because he does so much and brings so much to the table for you.
Terry, I know we're coming up on the break here a little bit, but I think we could spend a lot of time on this next guy I want to ask you about, Bob Hyde, a longtime Oilers Titans executive, of course, passed away. And this is for you and George. What is your experience with Bob? How much of an impact did he have in the city of Nashville with the Titans? And what made him so special and important to this franchise and the city?
Well, Bob Hyde was a true gentleman in every sense of the word, and just a great guy. He was one of the early faces of the franchise behind the scene, beyond the players and the coaches and things like that. Bob Hyde was a guy who was willing to roll up his sleeves and go out into the community and be a link and a liaison to the franchise. He had the added advantage of having been from Middle Tennessee. I believe he was from Tullahoma, and he had worked for the franchise during its years in Houston, had a good relationship with lots of people in the organization, all the way up to and including owner and founder Bud Adams. And when he came here, Bob was kind of that, guy that everybody could turn to and have a conversation with. And let's be honest here, George, I think you'll agree with me on this. There were some who were a little bit of acquired taste in terms of getting to know them and building a relationship when this franchise moved here. But Bob Hyde smoothed over a lot of that and was a guy who behind the scenes was very instrumental in that relocation process and establishing roots here in Nashville.
Terry, that is such a good point, and that is so spot on. Just from a personal standpoint, and I've talked about this a little bit this week, I've been on the board of the National Football Foundation Middle Tennessee chapter for about 20 years, and most of my duties have been as the MC. Our banquet and what we do is way better than most of the cities around the country. When Bob first got diagnosed, he contacted me and said, look, I need you to take over some of the duties of putting the program together. And oh my God, Terry, I had no idea the level of work that he did. I came to fully appreciate it because I had to do it all one year. I have no idea how we're going to replace him. That sounds a little bit crass. The truth of it is, all of us who have dealt with him, this is a guy who is going to be sorely missed. You know it, and I know it.
No doubt about it, George. Great man, Bob Hyde.
Yes, absolutely. Terry, thank you as always on pretty short notice for coming on, talking a little football with us. Before you leave, give us what's next couple of weeks look like in Titanland.
Well, it's interesting. Normally the mini camp ends the off-season work, but they moved the mini camp ahead of 1 week of OTA work. So there will be some OTA sessions next week. The Wednesday one is the one that's open to the media. And then once that concludes, it'll be everything quiet until training camp.
Appreciate it, Terry. Thanks as always. You have a great weekend.
All right, you too, George.
Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, joining us here on the show. After the break, we will have Stat of the Day. I think it'll be good to put Billy in the middle of it and see if he does any better than no, David's going. He won't.
He's got no shot.
Really?
I think it's all you, George.
It's up to me?
I think it's up to you.
Who knows? I may turn to Chris Lee for help.
Billy pulls that card if I wasn't alive. So it's pre-Billy. So
pay no attention. Stay tuned. All of this and more coming up in hour number 2 of the show.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? How?
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you. This is my buddy and former Nashville Sounds PA announcer Eric Berner. I always laughed in the old days at Greer Stadium when I would walk in, Eric would immediately play my favorite song, Van Halen's Jump. But then I learned he actually has a real job with Rockcastle Wealth Advisors.
Yeah, George, that's what I do. I help people in the pursuit of making their money live as long as they do. Everybody's situation is different, so I use a customized and individualized, personalized approach to the person I'm working with. Old 401ks, retirement planning, insurance planning, inheritance planning. Those are things that people like to get some more information about.
One of the things I find is people don't even know where to start, and that's where you come in.
Yeah, so I can usually help people with an initial phone call or meeting that is a no charge and no obligation.
And I'll bet you have a phone number and a website.
I do, George. They can call me at 615-235-1058 or rockcastlewealth.com or Eric at rockcastlewealth.com.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports. And then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general. Baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised, and of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Welcome back in. It is that time. Saturday on a beautiful Friday here in Bellevue. Presented by John English Antique Sports and Cards, located in Shelbyville, Tennessee. 204 East Depot Street is where you can find them. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So give them a call at 931-492-4304. And here we go. We're going to head to the association with Chris Lee on deck, ready to talk some NCAA Super Regionals. In Denver's Game 3 win in Miami, Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray became the first pair of teammates in NBA history to each record 30-point triple-doubles. Can you name the last pair of teammates to record a game in the playoffs with at least 30 points and 10 assists?
Okay, I've got a thought, and I'm going to keep it to myself for the moment. Let's just put Billy's butt on the griddle right off the bat. Billy, what do you got for us?
If my first thought is Kobe and Shaq. I mean,
just
how dominant they were.
Exactly what my first thought is.
I mean, they had so many runs where they were dominant. Now, of course, we're probably wrong. We're probably way off. But that's my first instinct.
My backup one, and let's go ahead and bring Chris Lee up here because he might have some fun with this. Chris, the one that's there are two others. Somewhere in here, a Larry Bird with a McHale or a Robert Parrish. But the one I'm really thinking is in Philly. And I don't know if it's Moses Malone, Dr. J. Don't know if it's George McGinnis, Dr. J. Somewhere in here, one of these three, I think, is it.
If you're asking me, the problem with Shaq, did Shaq pass enough to get 10 assists?
Yeah, that's the only problem there.
I mean, I'm thinking maybe Magic Johnson and somebody if you want to go way back. Right.
I'm going to help you guys out.
Oh, no.
One of the players is not a superstar that I would remember because I wasn't alive. One of them was a superstar and played against Michael Jordan in the finals.
My first thought is Danny Ainge with Larry Bird. I don't know, and I can
Barkley?
tell. I can see by the look. Barkley and what?
I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Stockton and Malone.
Chris, you don't know either, do you?
The problem is I'm trying to think of another guard, small forward type, because you would have to think a point guard would be in there somewhere.
This was a really difficult one, a really good find. I guess you guys are throwing in the towel.
Yeah.
It is Clyde Drexler and Terry Porter.
Okay.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, I had no shot at doing it.
You know,
We would have been here forever.
Clyde Drexler was a guy that Jordan found a way to hate. And if you read the books on Jordan, Clyde Drexler would really get his juices flowing. And you all might remember there's a game in the first half of an NBA final where Jordan goes absolutely nuts. And after one of the field goals, he just goes, you remember? That was part of Clyde Drexler.
Was that the finals where Magic Johnson was doing commentary and he looked over, he said, he can't guard me?
It might have been, yeah. Might have been.
Drexler, he got under his skin maybe more than anybody.
It was because he won MVP and Michael Jordan thought he should have won MVP. Was that it? Because Clyde didn't say anything to him.
No, this was sort of Jordan would try to find reasons to allow people to get under his skin and then create, just this crazy volcano of churning emotion. But enough of that. We're in the 3:00 hour. Billy, before we formally introduce Chris Lee, who has a very good-looking set.
He does.
There was a day in time about 5 years ago where Chris invited me to his home to try to teach me how a podcast would operate.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Let's just say that there was
that was probably a long process.
I would say it didn't work. I would say that I was just sort of a fog bank It's just like, oh, yeah, sure. Great. Thank you. Did you come away from that, Chris, saying he hadn't got a clue?
Well, I've never seen your eyes glaze over faster than I did that day. But I wouldn't say it didn't work. I mean, you've just done this. You just got the right people to help you. So
right. So
you got to really dumb it down.
Tell people, obviously, you and I have done a lot of stuff together over the years, but if somebody new is watching this, tell them where they can find all of the information you put out there.
Yeah, we've got a YouTube channel called Southeastern14. Just go to YouTube, search for that, and you'll find us. We should pop up pretty quickly. We cover the SEC on a near daily basis, including weekends. And we cover men's basketball, baseball, and football, and we cover them all pretty wall to wall. And so if you were looking for substantive analysis on the SEC, not just hot take stuff, I think you'll like what we do.
You've been on this baseball thing way before a lot of other people were, before a lot of people figured out, man, this is really cool. So in looking at all these matchups, Tennessee Southern Miss looks as compelling as any of them.
Yeah, I would say the one that I've circled as the most compelling is Florida, South Carolina. I didn't get into the reasons why, but that one is, now I will be honest, I don't know a ton about Southern Miss. I don't have a lot of free time, and what my time goes into the SEC, which is why we're Southeastern 14. But I do know that Southern Miss is a team with a retiring coach. It is a ballpark where the foul lines are 340 to left and right rather than 320 in Lindsey Nelson. I think it's 400 to center rather than 390. I don't know what the alleys are, but you've seen what it makes it go for Tennessee. They hit a lot of home runs. They play in a small ballpark. It suits their style. I'll be very interested to see what they do in a park that's decidedly different, and not just that, in a road environment that'll be hostile. And that has been something that Tennessee has not handled incredibly well most of the season. But that said, just won a huge game at Clemson and 2 more against Charlotte to advance from Clemson, and also took 2 or 3 from a banged-up South Carolina team to end the regular season. So there's some recent history for Tennessee playing better on the road.
Chris, you probably know the answer, and nobody else seems to. How did Tennessee get outbid for this regional?
I haven't seen, were they technically outbid for it, or did the NCAA just make a decision to put it in Starkville?
I don't know, but I would think.
Hattiesburg, excuse me.
First of all, Southern Mississippi, Billy, you're going to want to know this, is located in Southern Mississippi. And when I say that, I'm having some fun. On the way, if you're driving to New Orleans, Hattiesburg is right down there at the bottom of the state. Mm-hmm. Kiln, Mississippi, where Brett Favre grew up, and of course he went to Southern Miss, is 4 miles from the Louisiana border. So that's my little, mileage thing for you. Chris, I don't know. I used to always believe, and nobody seems to quite know, is it that schools are told, put up a dollar figure, and to the victor goes the spoils?
I think it's more complicated than that. And look, I have not dug in on this particular one, so I don't know the facts. I do know that you've got a coach who's retiring again at the end of the season. That's a storyline. And I think Southern Miss might have been higher in the pecking order before regionals were picked. I don't know if they make an adjustment based on how you played in the regional or not. Maybe you could argue they didn't, but anything beyond that would just kind of be speculating.
So there's a bunch of great stuff this weekend. If you really want to get into this, there's some great stuff, and it's all on television at different staggered start times. But the SEC's got 2 of these where they're going up against SEC opponents. The Florida, South Carolina, the LSU, Kentucky. Which one are you more sure of that you think you know who's going to come out alive?
I think it's LSU, Kentucky, just because The thought of LSU losing a regional to a Kentucky team that's never gone to Omaha just seems a little far-fetched. But having said that, they played a series down there once. LSU won it 2-1, but I think one of the games Kentucky lost was a one-run game. Kentucky is absolutely the kind of team that's built to give LSU fits. It will bunt, it will run, it's got a ton of pitchers. LSU, of course, the question has been, do they have enough pitching outside of Paul Skeens? It's been an issue all year. Having said that, Ty Floyd has pitched better at times. He's a guy that on a good day can give you 6-7 quality innings, if not really good innings. Thatcher Hurd is a guy who's really talented. He's a UCLA transfer. He's been much, much better lately. Skeens is enough to get you through a Friday night game alone, and that's 1 out of 2. And if either Hurd or Floyd or both of them are good, it's going to be hard for Kentucky to escape. But, keep in mind, Kentucky did give them problems the first time. I think style of play is an issue. Kentucky really brought the bats last weekend. LSU's had issues fielding at times. I think Kentucky might have more arms that you trust once you get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 deep into a pitching staff. And so that one is one to watch. I would favor LSU along with everybody else. But there are reasons why Kentucky can keep this competitive and maybe even pull an upset.
Okay, I'm going to ask one last stupid question, a really dumb one, and then turn it over to Billy, who really has kept up with baseball a lot like you have on the college level. So I like the format. I like the fact that, teams host and all that kind of stuff. Do you think in the next 10 years we get to a point where people say, no, let's do it like the NCAA basketball tournament. Let's select cities that host, and it's all neutral site?
I don't think it would all be neutral site. Now, I have heard talk of super regional formats extending to the regional. In other words, 32 hosts. So you play a best 2 of 3 against one more team rather than a best double elimination with 4 teams involved. In other words, it would be just like the super regional round, but a weekend earlier. That's what I've heard thrown out about before. Frankly, I like it. I think the variety's interesting. It's really set up to where you've got to win a 4-team tournament, a 2-team tournament, a 4-team tournament, a 2-team tournament to be national champion. I think it's fun. I think the strategy in a regional is a lot of fun to follow. I hope they don't, but what I've heard thrown about is potentially the 32 regional format, 32 host site format to start. And I think if they did anything, that's been where the speculation has been. But I've not exactly done a lot of digging lately into, is this apt to change anytime soon either?
Billy?
Yeah, Chris, the Southern Miss Tennessee thing to me is just kind of funny, all the outrage, right, about it. I mean, Southern Miss, it's a slight advantage, right? They have more seats, and they will bring more money to the NCAA. I mean, that's from my perspective, that's what it is. And you look at Tennessee, Chris, was their stadium a disadvantage to them, right? Or are they, say they have already renovated, say their renovation took place a year or two ago, they might get that bid. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. Anytime you can bring more dollars, that talks to the NCAA. It may be just as simple as what you say. Sometimes they may take other things into account, like hotel rooms. For instance, you saw Indiana State this last weekend couldn't host because of that situation, the Special Olympics in Terre Haute. I don't know if there was another mitigating factor in there besides that, but yeah, usually a lot of times it can be as simple as the money talks. And if you've got more seats to sell, then that would certainly be a big factor.
I want to go back to last season with Ole Miss and Southern Miss, when Ole Miss went down to Hattiesburg and really dominated Southern Miss. I mean, it looked like Southern Miss was kind of, caught red-handed there a little bit, and Ole Miss went on to Omaha after that. So do you think that helps Southern Miss this year, against Tennessee? Or, do you think this Tennessee team is so red hot right now that they're hard to contain? That pitching staff, I mean, that's hard to face when you got Dolander, Burns, Halverson. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, they threw out a kid by the name of A.J. Russell as well late. And I mean, it was ridiculous. So, I mean, how do you take much into last season against Ole Miss and that super into account when you look at this year with Southern Miss?
I mean, maybe every year's different. That's a team that eliminated LSU in a regional a year ago. Ole Miss happened to be the hot team. Ole Miss carried 2 pitchers all the way to the national title. Tennessee's got a lot more pitching depth than that Ole Miss team had. And I've said this. I went on Knoxville radio back when it was really going poorly for them midseason, and I said, look, if you want to look at a team, I always like to take the pieces apart, put them in the box, reassemble it, and say, what kind of team would that be? And with Tennessee, you could always say that the pitching depth was there, Billy, and you just named a lot of the arms. Dolander's a potential top 10 pick in the coming draft. Russell's been really good on the back end. Drew Beam has gone from a pitch to contact guy to a guy that's striking guys out recently, who's been pretty effective. And then before all those guys, they got Andrew Lindsay, who's their closer turned starter, who's been exceptional in that Friday night role. They've got Kirby Cannell. They got Camden Sewell. They got all kinds of arms. Usually I go talent wins, but sometimes you get one of these situations where a team's on an emotional high. And again, Tennessee's had issues playing on the road. I don't know if they've overcome those, if that was just that's baseball the last couple of weekends when they won on the road or not, but it's going to be fascinating to find out. But if I'm betting my life on it, I'm probably going Tennessee because when in doubt, go with the talent. But again, there's plenty of reasons based on venue and circumstance that you could take Southern Miss in this too.
All right, LSU, Florida, South Carolina, Tennessee. I'm not going to throw Kentucky into that mix. Again, Kentucky could go into Baton Rouge and upset LSU. Who knows? But those 4 teams right there, and there's been a lot. Best team. Florida is the best team. I think Tennessee is the hottest team right now. So where do you put that pecking order there between LSU, Florida, South Carolina, and Tennessee right now as we stand?
If you're just picking them out of a hat, putting them in a neutral field, I would probably go Florida, Tennessee, LSU, Kentucky. Of course, that's not the situation. I think Florida and Wake Forest, to me, and they're the 1 and the 2 seeds in this tournament for a reason. Florida's a team that I was saying before the tournament. It seemed like they had figured some stuff out with the pitching. They get in the tournament and they get really good outings going into the 5th, 6th, 7th inning from their number 5 and 6 starters too. That's a great way to mitigate a bullpen where you've got some issues, which Florida's had. Florida can hit the long ball. It can do all kinds of stuff. Tennessee is a team that can do a little bit of both. We talked about the pitching. It may not have the names offensively, but there's a lot of guys there that can rake. LSU, I would argue, has the better offense of any of those and the best pitcher in schemes. But after that, it is proven to be dicey on a lot of given weekends. And then you've got on top of that Kentucky. We talked about them. They're kind of underrated. They do things that you don't see a lot of places. They can make you field the ball and throw strikes and just do some things that the teams that get deep into weekends, even the good ones, have a hard time doing. So I think you can make cases for all of them to advance into Omaha and maybe come out ahead at the end. But I think, to me, I would probably go Florida as the team I like better than any of them. But I also think Florida got the toughest matchup with South Carolina. And again, a team that beat them before 3 games out of 3 in Columbia at the end of April.
Yeah, and I didn't even mention Alabama. I mean, I think a lot of people think that's a team that can go up to Winston-Salem. Chris, I know you know the dimensions. 310 in left, I think, and 300 in right field. And you talk about it, maybe a cracker box at Wake. Good luck to Wake and that pitching staff. I know they got one of the best in the country, but Alabama offensively can hit with the best of them. So I'm really excited to watch that one early tomorrow to see if Alabama can pull that off.
Well, and Alabama's got pitching too. They had arms go deep into games. They've got a couple young guys in the back end of the bullpen who pitch respectively. They've got an old lineup. But Wake, on the other hand, in spite of those dimensions, Wake's got 3 starters who pitched a lot of innings with ERAs under 3, I think. So that's a team that got it done in adverse conditions in the ballpark. And what they won their regional by 40-something runs, although it was probably the easiest one out there. I would say they also earned it, too, as a number 1 seed. That's an interesting matchup. And Alabama, I've argued this from the day they threw the pairings out. I didn't think that Alabama should have been the 16. I thought they played more like an 11, 12, 13. Auburn's AD was head of the selection committee. Make of that what you want. But I thought Alabama got a crummy draw. And, boy, I think this is a team I'd like their chances to go to Omaha a lot better, if not for that matchup this weekend.
Okay, I'm assuming by Billy's silence that we're done. Chris, can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this.
Yeah, happy to join you, and thanks for having me.
By the way, your set looks good.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks terrific. Thanks as always.
Thank you.
Chris Lee joining us on the show to talk NCAA baseball. We will go to the break and then the new popular way to end the week. 4 questions. Then after that, Plaster bets of the day. I got 3 of them. Stay tuned.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Scholar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Now that the weather has gotten considerably warmer, there's not a better place to spend a morning or an afternoon than Riverside Golf Lanes. So you've probably noticed the weather has gotten a lot warmer, and that means a couple of things in Nashville. It means baseball, and it really means golf. And for me, it's a visit to Riverside Golf Links. The course has improved dramatically. There are now 27 holes, including a 9-hole executive course. If you want tee times or more information, dial them up at 615-847-5074.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between. Discover what Hit City has to offer. Single game tickets are on sale now.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700, send us a message at celestemiddleton.com, or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Okay, we're back. This is one of these deals that we've created on Fridays to sort of finish the week in style. I ask each of these guys to come up with 2 great questions. David thought Billy sucked 2 weeks ago. I didn't think that was fair. Billy didn't either, so he responded a week later with 2 terrific questions. Billy, how did you feel about David's work?
Well, I thought it was a little bit of the opposite. David's got the controls today. So, no, but I thought it was the opposite. I thought David's questions were really good that first week. Last week, maybe not as good. So I think.
Really? Okay. We'll see what you got today then.
This is the deciding day here.
Okay, Billy, what is your first question? Ask the director.
Ask the director. Here we go. Yeah. All right, George. So PGA and LIV have combined, of course, as we know. And there's all kinds of people saying, this is awful. PGA should have never done this. What say you about the future of golf in general. Not just LIV, not just PGA, but when they combine, what is golf going to look like, and what is the TV coverage going to look like? I know there's a lot there, but in one question, what is the future of golf as a whole, professional golf as a whole?
Okay, let's start with a couple of things here. Number one, I think the players are going to try to force Jay Monahan out. The ones that are, even if it's a decision that ultimately is in the best interest of golf, for him not to seek their input or to let them know anything. If I were a PGA golfer, and certainly by my golf game, I'm not. But if I were, I would want his butt fired. He'd be out the door, and I'd be leading the charge to get him out. Now, that said, I think that what you're going to have is the silent treatment for a while. And on certain personalities, I think they're going to feel like they are scabs, that they have crossed a picket line and then rejoined when the going gets good. You hear this oftentimes about players who, in the baseball, football, basketball, who cross the picket line and end, the solidarity. I think there's going to be some of that. I don't think television-wise it's going to change all that much. I hear that the LIV tour will continue. Nobody gave a damn about the LIV tour, the LIV tour, other than the fact that they knew it was causing a lot of, pissy feelings internally in the PGA Tour. But I've never had one person say, hey, who won that great Saudi Open in LIV? I've never heard anybody ask that.
No, it's all about money. I mean, and that's where it shocks me that they actually did combine. But I don't know. I don't think that was a great question, but I thought it was a nice discussion starter. We haven't talked a ton about it this week, so I wanted to kind of get it out there for the golf fans.
Jay Monahan, dead man.
Dead man walking.
I don't know if he is or not. I'll be very interested. If I'm a player, I am one of the vocal ones saying, get him the hell out of here. We can't trust him.
I mean, the fact that he didn't tell them, I will never understand that. I mean, it was released on Twitter.
Now, he might argue that he couldn't have gotten it done if they had known it. Well, that's because they wouldn't have allowed it.
Right.
And I could see a scenario. I will say this. I could see a scenario where the players say, you don't think we have any leverage? Next week is the Greater Greensboro Open. I'm making up stuff here. And by the way, we're all going to boycott. See how that plays.
Yeah, I'll show you some leverage.
The players have more leverage here than maybe even they realize.
Well, and I go back to Brandt Snedeker. Remember our interview with him?
He was hot.
I mean, that's what I thought about when I heard the PGA and the LIV were merging. I thought about Brandt Snedeker. I mean, he came out and said, not word for word, I hate LIV, but he's not a fan of it. So that, I mean, there's a lot of players,
mannered people out there. Period.
Yeah.
Okay, David, what's your first one?
Interesting. Billy, show some confidence. You said, oh, it might not be a great question. I thought it was a pretty good question. George, I want you to whip out your crystal ball underneath that table. The AFC South has 3 rookie quarterbacks in it this year. Will all 3 start at the beginning of the year? Probably not. Will Levis is going to sit behind Ryan Tannehill. But 5 years from now, of the 3, C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis, 5 years from now, who has the better career to that point?
Well, here's there's obviously there are a bunch of unknowns. Is Anthony Richardson's raw talent harnessable to become a full game presentation? Because at Florida, you would get little bits and pieces of stuff. I mean, Indy's really taking a gamble here. Is it a gamble worth it? We don't know yet. Will Levis, who is he? What is he? Is he a product of a bad offensive line, terrible turf toe stuff, or is he not as good as he's tried to put it out there that he is? Because remember, at the Combine, he made it clear, I'm showing off the strongest arm out there. This all I'm doing is dodging the question. I don't know. I don't know that anybody knows. If I'm going to take a wild guess, it's easy to go CJ Stroud.
Interesting. Okay, fair enough. Billy, you're the man. You're up.
Here we go. Vanderbilt, George, has lost back-to-back regionals for the first time in 14 years. That doesn't happen, and it really shouldn't happen, for that matter, under Tim Corbin. But it did happen, and there's a lot of disappointment. There's a lot of questioning. There's a lot of concerns right now. Should Vandy fans press the panic button right now about the state of Vanderbilt baseball?
No. First of all, Tim Corbin deserves better than some of the second guessing that's going on. He has earned the right to, have a couple of things go wrong. Here's where I'm going with this. When I was in school, Vanderbilt baseball at McGugin Field was 3 metal bleachers. The biggest crowd I ever saw at a Vandy baseball game while I was a student, maybe 750. Okay, this guy's made 5 World Series appearances on the college level. He's won 2 national titles. He's been to 17 NCAA tournaments in a row. Give me a break. This man should not be catching a lot of criticism, period.
Boom. That's it?
That's it. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah. Should they maybe have challenged the hit by pitch? I went down to the TV truck during the lightning delay, and they told me, point blank, it didn't hit him. And so it's an easy second guess, but it's a little bit like saying, we're going to really second guess Bill Belichick. We're going to really second guess Nick Saban. Yeah. Well, on the college baseball level, that's kind of what Tim Corbin is and has been. Now, that said, Billy, I think right now, I know how he is after losses. He really just beats himself up. Mm-hmm. And I suspect there's a part of him asking questions like, can the school give me enough NIL money to compete with all the big boys? Do I have enough in the tank? He's now over 60. I'm sure he's asking himself those questions. And I don't know the level of scrutiny and criticism he's coming under, but stop it. I mean, this guy has earned the right. If he screwed up something, you know what? He's earned the right to screw it up.
Yeah, and it's rare. I mean, it's rare for them to go out. That's how rare it is. It hasn't happened in 14 years. The fact that they haven't lost back-to-back regionals. So I'm with you, George.
Is it my time to shine, Billy?
Yes, it is.
Well, now, wait a minute. If Billy is finished, who else do you think's asking questions?
Well, I didn't know if he had a follow-up to that.
Oh, well, let's find out.
Billy,
do you have a follow-up to that?
Well, I mean, all I would say is that, I will never understand. And again, I don't know if this is attacking him or not. I will just never understand why they didn't elect to challenge that. And again, that's really my only concern. And even if it isn't overturned, you made an effort, right? So that, that's really all my, qualms that I've got there.
All right, George, we're going to go to a piece of news in MLB. I was watching MLB Network this morning, and Nestor Cortez of the Yankees said, the Red Sox are coming to town to play the Yankees this weekend. He says their rivalry doesn't feel the same or like a rivalry anymore the last few years because the Red Sox have been so down. They're in last place in that AL East right now. So I wanted you to tell me, as of today, right now, what is the best rivalry in sports? It doesn't have to be Major League Baseball, but what's the best rivalry going right now in sports?
Okay, let me ask this question because I think it's real convenient to blame the lack of the rivalry feeling totally on the Red Sox. Some of it's the Yankees. Yeah, when was the last time they won anything?
They haven't been to the World Series since, 2008?
No, I love it.
So Terry McCormick is probably squirming at this question.
A little bit.
But I just want to know what
both of them are down a little bit. And it's easy to say, well, Padres, Dodgers. I don't think so right now. I don't know what the hell's going on in San Diego. They've spent all this money on paper. On the surface, it seems like they ought to be close to the Dodgers, but help me. What is San Diego's record right now?
Not very good. They've given up the least amount of runs in the National League. I'll check it for you, but they haven't scored any, and that's their problem.
Yeah.
They've been predicated on offense. But George, it doesn't. While I look this up, it doesn't have to be baseball. Just any sport. What do you think is the best rivalry going right now? While I look that up.
Well, first of all, in baseball right now, as we sit here, it's easy to go Yankees, Red Sox, Cardinals, Cubs. I think today it's the Braves and the Dodgers. Listen, that's a deal. I don't know why the Braves own the Mets when they play in Atlanta. They've won something like 11 of the last 13 games that have been played there. And even though they were down by 3 runs in every one of these games, you just had the feeling the Mets were going to find a way to gag it, and the Braves were going to find a way to win it. But the Braves, when they play the Dodgers, they don't have that level of confidence. They know that the Dodgers are for real. Right now, I might go Braves-Dodgers.
Yeah, and as a Braves fan, the Dodgers are that monkey that we can't get off of that back. It's the hurdle we're trying to get over.
Not going anywhere anytime soon.
And that's what made that World Series so sweet in 21 is you beat the Dodgers. The Braves fans are happy enough just to make it to the World Series and spite the Dodgers. Obviously, winning it was so much better. But
short-term Houston, Texas, all of a sudden might end up being.
Yeah, the Padres are 29-33. But like I said, they have given up the fewest amount of runs pitching-wise in the National League at 242, but they've only scored 258.
Something's not right there, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if you've, got to shock everybody and make a managerial change. How far out are they right now?
They are 8 games behind the first place
Arizona
Diamondbacks.
Let me put it this way. If this team can't even get in the wild card with all this money they've spent, some heads are going to roll at the end of the year.
Yeah, and this could be a side question, but don't you think they have to be sellers at the deadline if they're this far out?
It's a dicey deal, but yeah, maybe.
Okay.
The question is, who's going to take on the money that the Padres have put out in some of these deals?
Now,
are there locker room tensions that I wouldn't know one way or the other?
Now, they just signed Machado before this year to that long-term extension, but the one is Soto. Is Soto worth the $400 million
he hadn't been
wants?
So far? This park seems to have messed him up. Petco is one of the tougher parks to get a ball out of anywhere other than right down the lines, which are your normal major league dimensions. Center field feels like the Grand Canyon. The power alleys feel like the Grand Canyon. I don't know. There's something going on there.
There are going to be players in free agency this year with Ohtani being a free agent. It seems like they're just throwing money to their problems, and that isn't always the answer when you're building a team.
Their payroll is enormous. I don't know where they could withstand anymore if they don't make changes beforehand.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Mets. They're a team that's probably going to have to make some changes. They're 3 games below 500. They have the highest payroll in American sports history. Pete Alonso came out today saying he's probably going to go on the IL for a couple weeks. So that team is going to continue to struggle. He's their superstar. He's their guy. He's hit 22 home runs this year already.
Well, Verlander really struggled. Now, that said, Spencer Strider has been struggling. The Braves are living to tell about this for one reason. All of a sudden, the bottom of their lineup is helping the top of their lineup. And when that happens, they're going to score 6-7 runs a game.
Yeah.
But their starting pitching at some point is going to have to get a lot better.
Yeah, and I know we have to run, but those are 2 polar opposite teams. The Braves are a homegrown franchise that give out contracts to their guys. The Mets have built their team through free agency, giving a lot of money to older veteran players.
Yeah.
Scherzer, Verlander. So it's 2 different ways of team building, and it seems like one has been really working and one has not.
Plaster bets of the day. Bets are coming up next.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at bairdifference.com.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? How?
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Welcome back in. Final segment on a Friday. It is time for Plaster's Bets of the Weekend, presented to you by Bart Durham Injury Law Firm. They are, simply put, the best in the business. They are lawyers you can trust. So give them a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to bartdurham.com. And for George last night, it was another W. He's at 500.
Yo. Amen.
Back in the game, George.
Oh, absolutely. So one way or the other, I'm going to be below 500 or above 500 when the weekend is over, because I got 3 selections. Let's start with tonight's Game 4 in the NBA. I have had to look in the mirror and say to myself, it just is what it is. About a month ago, I said on here that Denver is better than anybody else, and I needed to stick with it. Shame on me a couple of nights ago for going with Miami. I thought they would really get revved up, but there became a point in the game where I think Miami just kind of looked up and said, we haven't got any answers. Unless Miami gets off to a really good start tonight gets that crowd back into it, Denver's going to cover and Denver's going to win. That's what I think. Okay, let's go to tomorrow night's hockey. One person's opinion. Vegas made a big mistake in letting Florida have life. Let's face it, Vegas had Florida on the ropes. They had a shot when they were up 2-1 that hit the crossbar that would have put Florida out of their misery. It didn't happen. Florida pulls the goaltender. It doesn't often work, but it worked last night. They tied the game at 2-2, and then their first shot of overtime found the back of the net. I'm just saying that Vegas needed to close the deal when they had Florida dead and buried. And when they didn't, I think Florida is going to win tomorrow night. And now I think this is going to be a 7-game series. That said, if I'm wrong and Vegas wins, it'll be over in 5. Now, let's give you an NCAA baseball number. This is the regional that if Vandy had been able to win, they would have hosted Oral Roberts. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I know a lot about Oral Roberts baseball, but I now know plenty about Oregon. And they've got a kid at the top of the order who absolutely will drive you crazy with speed. Oregon's at home. They're going to win tonight. Take them. Those are the 3. Oregon Ducks, Florida Panthers, and Denver Nuggets.
I think all really good choices. I think Denver is the better team in that series. I think they'll take a commanding lead 3-1 tonight. Will they win it in 5? I'm not sure. Miami's a resilient team, but I like that Denver pick tonight.
Monday, very excited to have former Duke football coach, former Tennessee offensive coordinator, and a real favorite of mine, David Cutcliffe, will join us from down in Birmingham. That's during the 2:00 hour. That's an interview you're going to want to hear. Have a great weekend. Everybody drive safely. We'll see you back in here on Monday.